All right, well, hello everybody, and welcome to coverage of the Fall Brawl Top 8. I'm Michael Hoyp. I'm joined in the booth by a special guest, the Hermit Druid himself, Mr. Mike Harris. How's it going, Mike?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we brought you on since we have a matchup that involves the Hermit FEB deck, something that
Yes,
you're
indeed.
quite acquainted with. So all the expert commentary on that deck will have to come from you tonight.
I'm
But
here to answer the many questions that people have
yes.
and will still have even after.
Okay, and so we have Hermit FEB on one side. That's piloted by Galen, and then Pit Rack for Gabe. That'll be the other side. Let's quick look at our player profiles and learn a little bit about who we have playing. So those who are not familiar with the Fall Brawl, we have 8 rounds of it's 2 batches. So the first round you're paired against 4 people, you play them, and then the second round you play against people who have similar standing. So it's not quite the same as a Swiss tournament, but has a little bit of that feel. Galen comes in at the 1 seed. He went 8-0, so he has not lost so far in the Fall Brawl. He is piloting the Hermit FEB deck. He says that the deck is favored against decks like Elves that have minimal disruption, and struggles against Sly and decks with a critical mass of hate. And I guess the real question is does Gabe's deck classify as a deck of that critical mass of hate? And so
I would say it does.
yeah. And for his sideboard, he said the sideboard MVP was noted as every card has played its role, but I would say that Meddling Mage has been overperforming. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right. A few other questions. I'm not going to go through everything here, but he talked about his deck. He's been playing up FEB and Hermit FEB and playing a lot, and he works with, I don't know how did he refer to, there's like a Hermit FEB Discord. I'm assuming you're
Yeah,
part of that, Mike.
he said he's been playing with the masterminds of the archetype. I guess he's referring to me and Robin in
Yep.
particular.
So there's a lot of discussion, I think, in tuning, and so you guys talk together. So that was part of how he made his changes or where he got his list. You could see he would say for making his changes, he said Duress and Meddling Mage were really doing well, and he wouldn't mind having more copies of those. And he could see Chill or Enlightened Tutor for the Sly matchup, but he feels like all the cards like have their role, and so it's kind of hard to cut cards. Favorite hobbies outside of Magic, he says sword fighting with my 5-year-old and enjoying craft cocktails with my wife are near the top of the list.
Nice.
So, and why should people root for you? He says Hermit FEB is a people's favorite. It's fun to watch the pieces come together. So yes, it's very perplexing. I guess it is exciting, I think, for people to watch, especially when there's like crazy things that you can do, which the deck I think has no shortage of.
Right, exactly. The lines are just insane, and it's really cool to watch it happen.
Yep, and so he said, anything else you would like to share? He said, I'm so grateful to be part of this incredible community. I especially want to thank the TOs and the content creators whose efforts create so much enjoyment for everyone. So,
Indeed.
appreciate that. Some of that was, I think, directed to me, but obviously there are a lot of other pre-modern content creators, with one of them being
I think it was directed at both of us.
Yes, and let's move on to Gabe. So Gabe Farkas went with a record of 6-2 as the 8 seed. He snuck in there. He is playing the Pit Rack deck, and he says he's probably favored against many control decks and combo decks, but can struggle against mid-range decks that can outgrind or outvalue, and some aggressive decks. He said Powder Keg or Death Grip was the sideboard MVP. And
It's interesting. 1 death grip in the
Yes.
sideboard,
Yes.
and it was an MVP.
that counters green spells, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't
2 black to cast,
Yeah.
2 black to activate, counters a green spell.
Okay. And so, why did you choose this deck? So Travis Schneider had kind of reached out to him and proposed a challenge that they play like black decks for Halloween, because the Fall Brawl takes place. The Swiss round takes place in October, and Gabe plays a lot of black decks, so it didn't take him a lot
Yeah.
to do this thing.
I wouldn't be surprised if without the challenge he still would have been playing a black deck.
Sure. And so we asked, would you make any changes to the deck? He said Skittering Scourge was frustrating most of the time, but in a couple or 2 or 3 games, it was like it helped him win a game that he wouldn't be able to win otherwise. 2 Smother wasn't enough, despite like he talking about having Plague Spitter and Curse Scroll and Cabal Pit. He still wants like some more spot removal. And
Yeah.
Phyrexian Negator, he kind of felt underperformed on the sideboard. For exciting moments, So he said he locked out a few opponents with an active Death Grip, so that one of Death Grip in the sideboard got its use.
Yeah.
And then he said he also lost a Hermit FEB despite having an active turn 1 Withered Wretch the entire game. So
Yes, and I believe that was other top 8 competitor McLean.
yeah, I think he might have played both Galen and McLean, and might have been both his losses, or maybe that was someone else. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't think he played Galen yet. I
Okay.
think this is their first time playing.
He said his favorite hobbies outside of Magic is watching NBA basketball, eating too much sushi, and tinkering with electronics and home improvement, and spending time with the family. So
There you go.
watching people root for you, Gabe says, because they want to be contrarians who cheer on the 8th place deck with the worst color. I don't know if I necessarily agree that
That's pretty debatable.
black is the worst color. It certainly, I think, is pretty well represented in different ways in this top 8. So
Yeah, people have been pointing out in recent large tournaments that it has not made its presence very known, but I don't know. I still feel like black's one of the better pre-modern colors.
it definitely, like, as a supporting cast, I mean, like, if you're just talking about Duress and Cabal Therapy, I definitely like
right.
those cards.
2 of the best, if not the best cards in the format.
Yeah, so I don't know if that necessarily makes it like a black deck, but
Right.
why should people root for you? Or I just said that. Anything else you'd like to share? He said, yes, there is. And then he asked, will there be a second form for that? So Gabe with this
characteristic wit.
Yes, very witty. He likes. I always imagine, like, so whenever you have like the comments or posting like a result, Gabe like uses those as like advertising boards, or like if you ever go in like the resorts, he just like always types stuff in. So I do see Gabe. I do see those comments. So I don't know if anyone else notices them, but I do. So
That's great.
all right, let's jump down to the decks of the players, and we can talk a little bit about what the players are bringing. So I have the deck list up for Galen. This is the Hermit FEB deck. So I am just going to pass it over to you, Mike, and you can talk as much as you want about this deck.
Yeah, I don't want to waste too much time,
Okay.
because it can certainly take a long time to go
Let's
through,
not get
but
into like the
basically-
real nitty-gritty of it. Let's talk about the basics of the 2 different combos, and then if there's anything
That's what I
that
was gonna
stands
say.
out on
Yeah,
the list.
that's what really matters. Is it's a full English breakfast deck. So you have your 4 Survival of the Fittest and your Volrath Shapeshifter. The full English breakfast combo is you get a Shapeshifter out. You can sometimes cheat on mana by casting it with a Palinchron as your top creature in your graveyard. And then you make it a Phyrexian Devourer. You have Triskelion in hand, and you start activating the Devourer, allowing the triggers to resolve, so that you have a huge a ton of +1/+1 counters on your Shapeshifter. Then you transform it into a Triskelion by activating the Survival. It does not matter that you allowed all those counters to resolve, because the Phyrexian Devourer clause that says it dies at 7 power or greater will be on the stack, which won't matter because you've transformed it into a Triskelion, and you kill your opponent before the stack gets down to that cause. What's cool about the Hermit FEB version is that it runs 4 Hermit Druid, and aside from that, the only real things that aren't in a normal full English breakfast deck are the Krosan Reclamation, the Coffin Purge, which isn't even necessary to the combo, the Karmic Guide, and the Akroma. And so basically what you do, you have all non-basics, you mill your entire deck with the Hermit Druid, you use Unearth, possibly shuffled back in with the Krosan Reclamation to unearth a Volrath Shapeshifter with Karmic Guide on top. That gives you the trigger. You then bring a Psychatog into play. You sacrifice the Psychatog to flashback a Cabal Therapy. Now Psychatog is the top card of your graveyard, and you remove most of your graveyard from the game to make it huge with all the +1/+1 triggers, and then you leave an Akroma on top with your last activation of the Psychatog, and you now have an Akroma that's something like 35/35, flying, trample, haste, all the stuff. No one's ever going to be able to block it enough to survive that swing.
Okay, so is there anything that stands out from this list from what you've played in the past or what you've seen either innovations or differences, or is this pretty stock at this point?
Yeah, so there's very few flex slots in the entire deck. Like it's basically down to your mana packet, your mana creatures. This is almost the exact 75 that I brought to the Sacred Torch tournament. The difference being he has an Intuition main instead of a Meddling Mage main, and I believe that is it.
Okay.
So the Meddling Mages, which were alluded to in his description, as well as the Duress 1/1 split, one main, one board, those were kind of like things we had kicked around as ideas. And I was just like, you know what? If we're just testing it, I'm going to max out. I'm going to, like, mine had 3 Meddling Mage in the 75 and the 2 Duress. And with very few flex slots, like that's kind of a big deal to bring 5 cards into the deck. And they've proven very good. And so other people in the Hermit FEB Cabal have picked that up.
Okay. Just a note, everyone in chat, there is a prediction up, so you have a few, well, it's probably like 3 or 4 minutes left to make a prediction on who's going to win the match. We are doing a best of 5. I will bring up the deck of Gabe, and we'll talk a little bit about what he's trying to do in this matchup. He's playing the Pit Rack deck, and I mean, this deck is not super popular in the meta, but it also, like, the card choices he makes, there are some differences that he has from what I've seen, and Gabe has played around with this list. I mean, he does try out different cards, but I guess I'll note, like, that there are more creatures in this list. That's what stands out more. I mean, I think the normal is, I've seen some that just have, like, Plague Spitters or just have Skittering Scourge. Some have,
Right.
I think the normal is usually that there's some amount of both. But he also has Foul Imp, Wither Wretch, and Dothy Slayer. So there's a lot more creatures in his deck that I've seen. And I'm trying to think what cards he's omitted because of that. And
the Funeral Charms,
Okay.
notably, and that actually is relevant because it's instant speed discard,
Okay.
and also removal for a Hermit Druid.
Sure. So I guess when he had noted, he's saying that he was lacking a little bit of spot removal. That was probably one of the cards that was cut, and so that does hurt him a little bit. So
Yeah, for sure. Only 2 Smothers. Like he said, like felt low, and it seems low, but he's trading it off for more aggression. Gabe and I have talked a lot earlier in the year about this deck, and like what he doesn't like about the stock list is that you usually get to a point with the Pit Rack deck where you're just top decking, and it's like whoever top decks better wins. And so that's why he added the more creatures, so that he could get a more aggressive, way to, when you're in that mode, just close out the game.
Okay. Yeah, and in this matchup, like, I think it really comes down to, well, I don't know if it's necessarily the most important card, but a key card in most of his matchups is Bottomless Pit. Like, that staying in play is going to make it really hard for your opponent to kind of, like, develop a game plan, because just discarding a random card every turn is really problematic. And,
Yeah, for sure.
While the Hermit FEB deck, I would think, might be able to deal with it, but because
tough.
I was just thinking, because, like, the turns are so condensed a lot of times with the Hermit FEB that, like, usually you can, like, get out, like, if you just get out a couple lands and a Hermit Druid, then, like, you're like, all right, well, I can discard the rest of the cards in my hand, and as long as I have an activation, then I should be okay. But
Right, but the problem is if you get the survival, then you're just like, all right, creature, where's a creature? I need a creature.
So we'll see how much disruption that Gabe is able to supply, and if it's enough against this matchup. So I'm ready to jump down the match. Are you, Mike?
I am.
Okay. So if you want to let our players know that they can begin,
Good.
we'll get started. So we have Galen on the left with the Hermit FEB list, and then Gabe on the right with the Pit Rack. So it looks like Galen has mulligan down to 5. So mulligans are not uncommon with the Hermit FEB deck, is that correct?
Not at all.
Okay.
You basically are mulling to one of your 8 one-card combos.
Okay, so the Hermit Druid or the Survival of the Fittest, usually.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like, one thing that's interesting, like, now that we're in the top 8, the deck lists are public. Do you think that knowing, like, if an opponent knows that they're playing against Hermit FEB, do you think that on average gives more of an edge to the opponent, or do you think it's like that Galen, knowing that he's playing against Gabe with a bunch of hand disruption or whatnot, that which cards are important? Like, who do you think gets more of an edge just from open information, I guess, in general?
Yeah, that's a really great question. It's kind of a toss-up because on the one hand, Galen is playing for Cabal Therapy, and he's got probably in this matchup he's not bringing Meddling Mage, but the Meddling Mages with open deck lists are pretty great. However, knowing that you're up against Hermit FEB, at this point the deck is pretty well known so that people kind of know what the targets are, what to try and take out. So I think it's really a toss-up as to who gains more from open deck lists.
Well, we do see an aggressive start for Galen with the Elvish Spirit Guide being exiled on turn 1 when the Gemstone Mine producing the Hermit Druid. So, also like the knowing that there is no card like Funeral Charm, I don't know if there's a turn 1 answer for
Well, he can ritual the smother.
Okay.
But yeah, Gemstone, that kind of stinks. Your turn 1 Gemstone, like, it's usually the last land you want to play.
Okay.
But unfortunately, being an all non-basic deck, there's a lot of lands that are the last one you want to play.
It's got to be that Galen doesn't have a different land other than Gemstone Mine, because you would play any other land, I think, in that situation, because you got the green from the.
Right.
Well, I guess maybe there's situations that you would need to.
Well, Trevor's Ruins.
Okay.
Which would be good with the Gemstone Mine.
Okay.
But at this point, he's really kind of, if he has the Unearth in hand, like, he's got the game.
Okay.
Oh, but a Duress, that could change that. And
So
he does not have the Unearth in
Hermit
hand.
Druid, Elvish Spirit Guide, and Undiscovered Paradise. Okay.
All right, Undiscovered. That's one of the other lands I was referring to. That is the last one you want to play.
So the Duress from Gabe misses. He still has 2. Okay.
Well,
there's a Withered Wretch, right?
1 Withered Wretch.
And we did talk about how Gabe had a Withered Wretch in a previous game against Hermit FEB, and it wasn't enough. But here, I feel like Galen's a little bit lower on resources, so maybe I don't know exactly if the Withered Wretch is super problematic, right, from this position?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, Withered Wretch is the worst creature for Hermit FEB to deal with. It's the worst graveyard hate for Hermit FEB to deal with. You can deal with a Crypt or a Furnace much better than a Wretch.
I'll note, Gabe had said that because the way he lost that game is because he did pass too many turns with mana open, and he wasn't applying more pressure. So I think he's not saying that he's going to tap out, but he is going to be a little bit more conscious of that. He might, I guess, in this situation. I mean, if he tapped out this turn,
the problem is with the Hermit Druid, the survival half is the much better half against Pitrack.
Okay.
So with the Hermit Druid out, it's so much more susceptible to Wretch, because basically he only has to keep 1 mana up to target, if he activates, which he's probably not going to with the active Wretch out.
Because if Gabe had tapped out, then Galen would be able to win from this position, right? He'd be able to activate the Hermit Druid with let's say the Undiscovered, because he has the Elvish Spirit Guide in hand, he'd be able to tap it with the Undiscovered Paradise. Put back.
No, he doesn't have enough mana, and he has the wrong lands. If he did that, so he could activate it with the Gemstone, because the next turn is upkeep, he needs to flash back the Krosan Reclamation. And so then that would give him that would make him tapped out, and he would need to draw a land in order to cast the Unearth that he shuffles back.
Well, if Gabe had tapped out, wouldn't it be Undiscovered Paradise end of turn, activate the Hermit Druid, mill your entire deck, then an upkeep?
Oh wait, he has the
Elvish
Spirit
Guide and the Gemstone Mine
I forgot
to
about
flashback,
that.
and then put 2 Unearths back, and then you play the Undiscovered and an Unearth.
Yeah, he could do it with the Spirit Guide. I forgot about that.
But Cabal Therapy he had named Hermit Druid, so I guess is there, does the Elvish Spirit Guide almost have more value from this position, given that the Hermit Druid's already in play?
Yeah,
because if you're kind of committing to leave mana open to disrupt the graveyard, a second one doesn't do you any good. I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess
and
if Gabe gets to the point where he's able to remove the Hermit Druid, then the one that's in play, that he's able to kind of be
right,
in a more
then he
comfortable
doesn't have a
position.
fallback
Yeah.
because I mean it is your win con. So that's definitely not the wrong play. But as we just outlined, like he could potentially get there with the Elvish Spirit Guide, whereas the Hermit Druid wouldn't help. But I mean, it's just such a rough position to be in for Galen. I mean, if Gabe taps out, which I don't imagine he will, but if he taps out, then yeah, Galen can just go for it.
Mm-hmm. So Gabe has 3 cards in hand, but besides like dark ritual plays, I think all of his cards are more expensive. So
Yeah.
he's gonna wait. He's gonna play it slow, I guess, from this position.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that Gabe leaves open mana the entire time, what is Galen's kind of game plan of beating a Withered Wretch?
Main deck, he does not have one.
Okay.
He's got sideboard cards to deal with it, but other than that, I think he's just hoping to draw a survival.
Okay. And that is, so if he got survival, I mean, he would have limited activations like with the Squee, because that would get removed.
It would be slow going for sure. And that's the other reason that Withered Wretch is by far the graveyard hate you dislike the most, because it then takes out the Squee that you need to start generating the card advantage to win. It takes out the Palinchron if you're trying to cheat on mana. And Galen's land situation. Oh, he got the survival.
Okay.
But yeah, his land situation is very unfortunate. He's probably going to start looking for like birds and Wall of Roots first.
Okay. So Gabe added a Dauthi Slayer, so that's another card that can at least apply some pressure. But yeah, Galen has the Survival of the Fittest, which, as you had noted, is probably the card he wanted to see the most in this position.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gabe gets attacked for 4 each turn, and with Galen like real short on mana, or constrained mana, I guess is
Yes.
the Undiscovered comes back every turn. The Gemstone Mine needs to only get one activation. He doesn't have an
Yeah.
activation. He could either use the Elvish Spirit Guide as a creature to discard, or use it as a mana source. So
And that's the other thing that sucks about Gemstone Mine is once you get down to 1, the top card of your graveyard is very relevant. And if it's a Gemstone Mine, that's not good.
all right, so we're on Galen's turn. We have. He should have 1 unknown, right?
He did the survival.
The survival was last turn, and he okay.
Right.
Oh,
Oh,
there's
he's got 2 unknowns.
2 unknowns.
Yeah.
Okay. So Squee would be the first creature I would discard, even though it's still going to get exiled thanks to the Withered Wretch.
Yeah, just because you'll want the Spirit Guide for mana.
So you're thinking it's going to be like a mana source?
Yeah, I mean that's what I would do here because he needs to get out of this Undiscovered Paradise Gemstone only situation.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a ton of time.
I know,
and like
but
the Dauthi
I
Slayer
mean
has
the
Shadow,
Wall of
so-
Roots will block the Withered
Yeah,
Wretch.
yep. But yeah,
So-
the creature with Shadow is actually kind of relevant here. That you can
Totally.
you can find a lot of creatures out of the survival deck, but right,
Right,
none of them
don't
none
have
of them can
removal.
block. There's no Shadow creatures in the list, right?
I mean, I guess thinking back now, he could and probably won't because there's a Withered Wretch out, but he could find a Triskelion, cast the Shapeshifter,
Okay.
and shoot the Withered Wretch.
Okay.
All right, looks like Smother is taking out the Druid.
Well, I think that might allow like Gabe to tap out certain situations. I mean, maybe he still won't. It's kind of because he's already like in a commanding position. He probably doesn't want to take any risk. But like,
Mhm.
I I guess I'm trying to think. With one activation, are you not able to go for a survival kill with Triskelion, Devourer, and Shapeshifter? Right, like just like one activation would throw that off, right?
One activation of Withered Edge?
Yeah.
Well, the problem is he have to get it all, and he,
Okay.
the Squee is going to be removed, so he wouldn't have enough creatures, mana, or time to find it all.
Is Galen thinking about responding to the smother?
I think he's considering it.
I guess as like a last ditch effort. I
assume this is his end of turn, and I can't imagine that. Oh, he might be doing it.
I mean, maybe he feels like his best way is just like hoping that like Gabe screws up in some way.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
that happens shockingly often.
Yeah, I mean, like,
when you're playing
I'm not trying to discredit Gabe, but I'd be like, yeah, like you don't, your odds don't look very good in terms of if you just play a normal game and just like let the Hermit Druid die and then like go to untap or try and do some survival things. Like you don't have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of mana, and you're probably just gonna die anyways. So this might just be your like best hope of just kind of
just Hail Mary it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it seems like that's what he's doing, and I mean, I've been there. Because he does have 2 turns. He's at 8 life, so... Or no.
Yep, the attack already went through.
But this is the end of Galen's turn.
No, right? I think this is Gabe's turn.
Oh, this is on Gabe's turn, second main. Okay. Alright, yeah, so he has 2 turns, so... I think there's only if he has an Unearth in hand can he pull this off. The Gemstone on 1 is such a problem too. Because like, I almost think I would probably use the Gemstone to activate the Hermit
just
so that it's on the bottom.
You can have your order.
Right.
I mean, basically you can't use it anyways.
Exactly. Like you can't use it post activation at all.
Maybe Gabe would be really nice and just exile the top card.
Now, Galen, I have to give him his props because the Coffin Purge tech was his addition when he joined the Hermit FEB Cabal, and he definitely is able to think of lines using the Coffin Purge in particular that I never would have thought of. When he first suggested it, I was like, are you crazy? Like a non-creature card that's only relevant on occasional Hermit activations? Okay. But then I played it and was like, oh my gosh, this opens up so many options, because it's like you can sacrifice your Hermit Druid to flashback a Cabal Therapy before doing the Unearth trick, Cabal Therapy away the Hermit Druid, or Coffin Purge away the Hermit Druid, and still go off. Because the biggest problem we had before was the fact that when you flashback a Cabal Therapy using the Psychatog, your Shapeshifter is already in play, so you can't nab the creature removal that's what you want to take.
Okay.
So that gets you out of that, but also anyone with instant speed, and this could be anything. It could be a wasteland, it could be, you know, a bolt for your bird. Anything that can instant speed change the top card of your graveyard will fizzle your combo. So Coffin Purge gets out of that. Now, all of this is a long-winded way of saying, like, he's so pinched on mana that I can't even really see that extra black being doable.
Right, so I want to know: has there ever been an instance where you've used Coffin Purge like the fair way and just like
absolutely,
okay.
Yeah,
well, like fact, you have good stories like did you ever counter like a Gaia's Blessing that was just targeting one card or something?
The first month that I played it was I believe it was the May monthly before LobsterCon, and I was testing it out, and one of the guys in my pod was playing a deck with main deck Ray of Revelation, and he quiet speculation for it, tapping out when I had a survival out. I was like, guess what I play?
Nice.
Main deck.
So I guess I will note. So because this was a main phase in Gabe's turn of Smother, that he is able to flashback Cabal Therapy. He sacrificed the Dothy Slayer. So now he has the option. I guess.
Oh, so he can change the top card. Yeah.
So if you just name Elvish Spirit Guide here, I guess what if you just exile the Elvish Spirit Guide, and now like Gabe isn't like
use it.
Oh, it's a flashback.
And now the gemstone goes on top.
Okay.
So I bet he might even flash back the gemstone along with one of the unearths. Or not flashback, shuffle back.
Okay, so use Krosan Reclamation and target a land and
now the problem with that, of course, is that he responds by exiling one of the unearths that was targeted. Okay, so he targeted 2 unearths.
Okay.
Yeah, because if he had targeted unearth and gemstone, he responds by removing the 1 unearth. So that would have been a bad play.
Okay, so
Intuition.
Gabe named Intuition and got it?
Did that really? Oh, I guess because he had to show him his entire
okay.
library that was getting milled,
okay,
he could easily figure out what was left in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that Gabe like deduced it just from like thing, but also like I know a lot of times like at webcam people kind of just say like I have this in my hand. Because we have open deck lists.
Yeah,
like,
hopefully he just
would just because otherwise it would just be like, all right, we're gonna go through this long like drawn out process of where you basically
right.
like,
I'm gonna
I had to go through your
deck.
list and you're gonna tell me how many of those copies of those cards are in the graveyard.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny because like if you know Psychatog's in his hand, it's actually better for it to. From Gabe's perspective, for it to be in Galen's hand than in the graveyard, because
that
would be something that usually you unearth.
Then he can just cast the shapeshifter.
Oh, I guess.
Or no, actually it doesn't matter, because Psychatog being in hand is actually one of the. He has to flashback a therapy targeting himself, but he doesn't have his druid now to do that.
Okay.
So wait, what is he? How is he? Okay, he's doing the unearth just to put the shapeshifter into play, but he doesn't have enough mana to activate the shapeshifter. That's the other way.
If he had an additional mana, he could at least make it a Psychatog.
I mean, he wins on the spot if he had 2 more mana right here.
2 more mana.
Yeah, if he can activate that shapeshifter. No, he backs it in instead.
Alright, looks like there was not enough that Galen could do, and so Gabe did find enough disruption, and he is up a game.
So, I don't remember, did Gabe have 7 going into that?
I think he had 6.
Okay.
I don't think he had less than that, but I do think he also had mulligan.
It's almost worth it to mulligan to Wretch.
Okay.
Like,
I think he only
these
has...
early games, I think, favor...
I don't think he has a full 4 in his deck, though.
He has 3.
Okay.
And none in the board.
All right.
So, yeah, I don't mean you mulligan down to 4 to try and find it, but if you've got, like, a medium hand, you might be like, well, I want to get a little better, and a Wretch is, like, a snap keep. But I think the non-sideboarded is actually better for Galen. I still don't think that he's favored. I think Gabe is favored throughout, but non-sideboarded, like, you gain answers, but you don't really have like a much better game plan. Okay. You're just like improving things, whereas for Gabe it's like he gets to bring in all the hate. He has such good hate.
So yeah, just clarification, we are doing a best of 5, so players' decks are not changing for the second game. We'll have to wait to the third game before they have access to the sideboard, but Gabe is up a game, and so Galen will again be on the play. He's going to look for... I mean, I guess if that hand had more resources, just like more lands,
Yeah.
then that game could have been a lot different.
Yeah, if it had been, you know, like a if it had been pain lands even, like 2 pain lands or one in a Treva's Ruins or one in a Reflecting Pool would be even better, then that greatly helps out his chances. Yeah, it's funny. All the 5-color lands, and we recently put a single copy of Undiscovered Paradise in as
Okay.
well, which has actually been pretty good. Like, haven't really been punished by it because it's kind of the same situation. You just play it last when, you know, it stinks if it's like your turn one, like if it's that or Reflecting Pool.
Sure.
But for the most part, it's pretty good because the ability to have a 5-color board really helps, you know. And we went back to kind of brewing traditional FEB, and it's really hard to make traditional FEB better without breaking it out of being just blue, black, green. And like the swords and the meddling mages have been so good, like we want to make it better like that. So that's kind of an advantage of the all non-basics. But then a situation like what just happened is where it is not an advantage to have all these clunky 5-color lands.
Okay, I'm just making sure. Just from body language.
That they know they can go ahead.
Yeah. I think they can. If they haven't like asked or anything, but maybe Galen just had to step away from the computer for a moment. Yeah, going back to Undiscovered Paradise, I mean, I've used it in a lot of different contexts, but like when I built like my 4-color zoo decks or whatever, and I'm playing cards that like cost like 3 mana, like Vindicate or Call of the Herd, and Flashback it costs 4, and I still include like 1 Undiscovered Paradise because a lot of times they're just, I mean, most of the time you can just kind of fit it in and kind of adjust your game plan based on it, and it doesn't feel like as much of a drawback when you just have 1 copy.
Right, exactly. Same with the lair lands. Okay. Like a single copy, it never really feels like you get horribly punished for. If you're playing even 2, all of a sudden you find yourself drawing both of them in opening hands.
Have you ever had to use them, like, because if you only have lair lands, you can still like have it come into play and tap it for mana and then have it die. I guess, have you ever had to do that, like with the Elvish Spirit Guide or something, like on turn 1 to make a Hermit Druid? I guess that probably puts you back. You're not able to do that much with it if you lose your land. So
yeah, I've never done that, okay. And I probably wouldn't keep a hand like that, especially because like early on playing this deck, I was a bit too aggressive or not aggressive enough with my mulligans, and this is still very much a wasteland format. Okay. So if you keep like a 1-lander with a Spirit Guide and even a bird, sometimes you just get horribly punished for doing that.
Alright, so Galen is starting off with a City of Brass and then a turn 1 Cabal Therapy, so he's probably thinking about what he wants to name. Like, would you name Withered Wretch?
I would, okay. Yeah.
Gabe's doing it
by far what you're afraid of the most.
Oh.
And he gets it.
All
Boom.
Right. So the rest of the hand is Swamp, the Rack, Duress, Dothy Slayer. Is there one other card? Cabal Pit,
Cabal
maybe?
Pit. Okay. Yeah, Cabal Pit.
Well, so Gabe's going to get to respond with a discard spell of his own. He's going to get a Survival of Fittest. The remaining cards are another City of Brass, Hermit Druid, and Volrath Shapeshifter.
That is a good hand for Galen.
Yeah.
One of each. Although he is up against a Duress deck, so. But now that the Withered Wretch is gone, the Druid is much better. And he has a Shapeshifter already in hand. So if he gets to 3 mana, well, I guess he'd need 4 to activate and cast the Shapeshifter, but you don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of the Karmic Guide, okay. All that stuff. You just put the Psychatog on top.
Alright, so a Painful Hermit Druid is cast with 2 City of Brasses, but
Mhm.
I guess this is a spot where like the combo deck doesn't care too much about its life total because
At all. Yeah. When you're this fast. All right. So he's therapying. Probably just names Shapeshifter.
the other card is an Unearth.
Ooh,
I was gonna say
wow.
so that's
Wow.
just game
He
right here,
wins.
right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
He
Gabe's
taps
gonna-
out to cast the rack, and Galen, let's watch him do it.
All right.
I assume Gabe is gonna let him play it out for the camera.
Sure. Yeah, this is the convoluted process of the weird interactions of this deck, but
Mm-hmm.
but once you like, I mean, in this spot, are you like, can you just do it like real quickly, or do you still kind of have to think about things? Like, because obviously you've played this a bunch. Is it
If
like,
he's tapped
automatic,
out,
or-
then no, I'm not stopping to think about
Okay.
anything. And the only really things that you do need to stop and think about are like, do I need to worry about, is he going to instant speed kill something? Do I need to keep Coffin? But he has the Coffin Purge mana up, so he doesn't need to worry about that. What do you name with therapy? But usually, like I said before, it does not matter.
Yeah, because usually if you're getting to that point, like your opponent can't interact if they have it.
Right, exactly. So he's probably like, if he were to stop and think about something at any point, it's, do I do the Coffin Purge therapying my Druid just to check and see if my opponent has anything? But again, he's tapped out. There's nothing he can do.
So let's say Galen didn't have an Unearth in hand. If you're in that position with 2 CD Brasses, is it better to... I guess he had just tapped out. I was thinking he had mana up. I would say, like, would it have been better to end a turn, use the Hermit Druid, but he just played it? I was the same. But so, all right, never mind.
Yeah, it wasn't an option.
All right, so...
To answer Umaboshi in the chat, he does not have Snuff Out. Snuff Out would be relevant here.
All right, so Galen will reorder his deck as he chooses. Well, at least from the cards that got milled. So Unearth, put a Shapeshifter into play. It's going to be a Karmic Guide. It will trigger and then become a 0/1 because the Unearth resolves.
Mm-hmm.
Karmic Guide will target itself, which gets another
Correct.
trigger, and it will target Psychatog.
Mm-hmm.
And now Cabal Therapy will sacrifice the Psychatog, and the Shapeshifter becomes a Psychatog. Then we're going to use the activations to pump up the Shapeshifter, and then eventually the last activation, we're going to make sure that the Akroma is the last card so that it has haste. Is that
Correct.
a good summation?
That's it.
All right.
You nailed it.
I was like, it sounds.
I'm sure people are going to ask why put the Karmic Guide into play with itself, and the answer actually came in a match against Gabe a little over a year ago when I was streaming. It was like, I think, a top 8 match that I was playing against him, and I realized that he was able to disrupt the combo, but by me putting the Karmic Guide into play, I could let it die to the Echo next turn and then do the combo again.
Okay.
I'm not sure what Gabe is doing there with his hands, but
He's just enjoying himself.
Yeah.
Gabe is like a pretty good sport about in these situations. So all the cards get exiled. It's now an Akroma, and that Shapeshifter doesn't tap. I think that we have a rules violation from Galen. So
it does not. It has vigilance. When Lanny and Flores were watching back the Sacred Torch tournament, they pointed out that I bring it in like a DJ. Wicked, wicked, wicked.
All right, so Galen
Because I
equalizes.
usually tell my opponent, like, hit you with a gigantic beater.
Yep. And that was, I mean, a pretty impressive draw from Galen. I mean, like, that was because Gabe went.
Yeah,
Duress,
that
Duress,
Unearth was
and-
key.
Yeah. I mean, he was still in like decent shape, even if like that Unearth is not in his hand, right? It just takes an
Right.
extra turn.
Yeah. Actually, no. He probably would have
Oh.
been fine because he drew the next
Okay,
land.
so yeah, he would. Okay.
Because he drew the Brushland, he was able to. He would have been able to do it next turn, end of turn, flashback with the Reclamation.
All right,
But
so-
being able to do it a turn earlier can be key, especially against a deck with so much hate like Gabe's.
All right, so now we're going into game 3, so now we get to look at sideboards.
Yes.
So let's go over back to the decks. We will try and anticipate what the players are bringing in. So I have Gabe's list up. I think his might, well, for me it's more straightforward. Maybe not for you. So let's see. There's Death Grip, 2 Diabolic Edict, 3 Dystopia, 2 Engineered Plague, 2 Ensnaring Bridge, 3 Phyrexian Negator, and 2 Powder Keg. I mean, it's almost like a ton of these cards actually have a reasonable place. Like,
Totally.
I've run like Engineered Plague against this deck, just like shutting off the Hermit Druid combo. Like Dystopia, I think could be okay.
Actually, what are you suggesting naming with Engineered Plague?
The human.
So actually, if you name Phyrexian,
Okay.
they errataed Volrath Shapeshifter to be a Phyrexian.
Okay.
Now you can get around it by it becomes the creature type of whatever is in your graveyard. However, it cuts off your Hermit Druid combo because when you unearth, it becomes a 0/1.
Momentarily. Okay.
Exactly. You can still do it by hard casting the Shapeshifter, but long story short, Plague is actually pretty good against Hermit FEB because it also makes it so you have to work around it when you're doing the FEB combo as well.
Like, is Dystopia a card that you fear? I mean, like, it kind of...
I think so. Yeah, Dystopia is great.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a decent way to answer Hermit Druid and
Survival. Exactly. I mean, it's the best black anti-survival card.
Is Powder Keg ever a card, or do you think that's just too
I don't
slow?
think so.
Okay.
No. I mean, he's really trying to figure out like what not to bring in.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if you had a sideboard that was a lot less impressive and didn't have a lot of cards, then I could maybe see bringing in a Powder Keg because it, like, on some occasions it might interact, but like I don't think like Gabe is
too slow. Yeah. It doesn't take out enchantments. It really only fights the Hermit Druid. Yeah, so I would bring in the Death Grip for sure, the Plagues, the Dystopias, and that might be it, unless maybe he wants to bring in the Negator to be even more aggressive. But then you take out the Cursed Scroll for sure.
Is the Ensnaring Bridge ever a problematic card? Like, because it would shut down the Akroma way of winning, right? Like the way we just
shuts down the Akroma way of winning. I mean, I've had it played against me for sure, but then you just feb and win that way. Okay. It definitely wouldn't warrant a spot.
Are any of the cards in like Gabe's main deck bad? Like, which are the worst cards? So
Cursed Scroll is probably the worst.
Okay.
Because by the time that's able to take out a Hermit, it might have already won.
Okay.
That's the only one that's like an obvious takeout. He'll probably take out maybe the Foul Imps because he doesn't have to be. Well, he does want to apply pressure. Like, that's a big deal.
Sure.
But I think Skittering Scourge and the Slayer do a better job of that.
All right, so we'll see that. Let's jump over to the deck for Galen. And we see the sideboard is 3 copies of Chill, 2 Meddling Mage, 1 Auramancer, 3 Swords of Plowshares, 1 Enlightened Tutor, 1 G2 Slinger, 1 Duress, 2 Naturalize, and 1 Uktavia Orangutan. All right, I'll just leave this to you, Mike. Is this a standard? Is this a standard sideboard, or is this a little bit innovative?
So this is the most recent sideboard, and it's pretty close to what we were playing around LobsterCon as well. So he definitely brings in the 3 swords and the G2 Slinger, like, full stop. You got to take out that Withered Wretch. Like, that's your big problem. But the remaining cards, I mean, Naturalize is really good, to take out his, assuming he brings in the Dystopia and the Plague. It can also take out a Bottomless Pit that's giving you headaches. Auramancer for sure, because he duresses away your survival turn 1. You want a way to get it back. And I think that might be it. There was discussion in the Hermit FEB Discord about what to bring in, and so I don't know the exact answer because Galen never told us the final, like, what he's doing, but he said that he was considering the Tutor because survival is just much better against this deck than Hermit.
Okay.
The problem is there's not a ton of great cuts. Like the main thing about this deck and what really led to success with it was the discovery that you can't over sideboard because the deck is so tight. If you are bringing in more than, let's say, 5 cards, you basically have to just take out the Hermit package, and Galen actually mulled that over. So we will see if he decided to transform and be a FEB only deck, or we've also been talking about doing a soft transform where you take out like 2 druids, the purge. That way you could still go off if you need to, but you're less reliant on it. So we'll see. See if there was anything else from our conversation I'm forgetting.
We have chat saying hello from Singapore. So questing druid, well, welcome.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say though, for what he takes out, like take out the Fiend. It's not great here. Probably takes out the Intuition. It's just too slow, and its side benefit of getting 3 therapies is not as relevant here as it is against like control decks. He takes out the Purge probably because he doesn't have the Funeral Charm. He doesn't really have much of any instant speed way aside from the Smother to change the top card of his graveyard.
Is Elvish Spear Guide a card you ever cut?
Yes, it is a card you cut a lot. It's usually like when you're not transforming, like your go-to. All right, I'm taking these out, and
because the idea is like getting your key card in play early, like the Survival or the Hermit Druid under Counter Magic or around discard stuff. And if that's less of part of the plan, then you don't need that slot of using a card for that little boost.
Right, exactly. And post sideboard, you're more resilient to whatever your opponent's strategy is. So you don't need the speed as much, but of course that's sometimes wrong as well. Sometimes you do want to keep the speed in. But usually most matches I'm taking out at least 1.
Okay. All right, I'll jump down the match. It looks like our players, I think they're resolving mulligans right now. So Gable good to be on the play, and he's been 2 cards back. All right, so he's mulliganing to 5.
Ooh.
But then, I mean, I think that means that Galen is also mulliganed, right? Or maybe
he has the die on 1.
Okay.
So I think that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep.
Okay.
So you already put back the 1. All right, turn 1, Ritual Out of Plague.
Okay,
so
I'm like,
bring it in.
I'm trying to see. I'm like, what card is that?
Yeah, that is his signed Plague. I'm guessing from an in-person tournament.
Is it a 7th edition one, or is it? It looks like a white bordered.
No,
Urza's Legacy.
It is white bordered, but I think the story behind that is that somebody white bordered it for that tournament. We can ask him about it later.
So you think Phyrexian is the correct choice in this position?
Yeah.
To name?
Yeah, that's going to be the most difficult thing for him to get around.
All right. So Galen starts with Birds of Paradise, and then as I screw up the life totals, and then Gabe starts the second turn with a Duress. We see in Akroma a Devourer, a Yavimaya Coast, and a Hermit Druid.
Mm-hmm. So a handful of creatures. The Unearth, though, does definitely hurt him with the Hermit Druid.
Okay. I guess I missed that. That was what was taken with
Yeah, but in this situation, he will flash back the 2 Shapeshifters and not an Unearth, and then have the Psychatog on top. And then when he casts the Shapeshifter, it'll be a Psychatog, so it won't get the -1/-1.
Okay.
Oh, Just having 3. Did he draw a Shapeshifter? I hope he's not casting it.
Well, it's possible that Gabe named something else. So
That is true. Yeah, maybe he named human, thinking about the druid. Yep, that seems to be the situation.
okay. I guess maybe we should confirm. I mean, I'm assuming Galen wouldn't play the Shapeshifter if it was named.
He definitely did not name Phyrexian, and the assumption would be human, because he probably would have played the druid out if it wasn't naming human.
Named Druid.
Named Druid. All right. I guess human doesn't really hit much else that druid doesn't hit in the deck.
I'm trying to think.
Like, he didn't bring in the Meddling Mages.
Is Auramancer errated to be a human wizard?
Auramancer is a human now. Yes.
Oh man, if Gabe starts taking extra points of damage from an Auramancer. Because I don't think Gabe has any humans, right? It doesn't hurt him.
Definitely not.
Withered Wretch is a zombie cleric.
Yeah, zombie cleric.
That's the most human-like
Slayer
thing
is
that I
a
remember.
Dothy, right?
I think so.
Plague Spitter is a horror. Scourge is an imp. Foul Imp is obviously an imp.
Alright, so Gabe summoned a Phyrexian Negator, but with Galen...
Okay, so he did bring them in to put on the pressure.
I mean, if Galen just discards Akroma, that just might be enough. Like
That's probably what he's doing here. And that's a great play. It is pro-black. So the only thing, though, is any more discard, and he can change the top card.
Okay.
You know what he could do? Yeah, he can put the Devourer in the yard at the end of Gabe's turn.
Oh, and then
the next turn he can activate it, but not let the triggers resolve.
And because he has the Akroma in hand, he could just discard it. And
get it to be +14/+14 or greater, change into Akroma, and just win.
That's really funny. That you just it's like you have survival in play, but you need it. It's just
it's just a slower survival that needs to resolve. That's the relevant thing, though.
So wait. Gabe just attacked with the negator, like you just discard the Crow.
Ooh, but he doesn't unless he has a spirit guide. Doesn't have enough mana.
Wouldn't you just discard the Akroma and just make him sacrifice all his permanents?
No, because he wants to do the Devourer.
He wants to win next turn. But I mean, like, wouldn't you win the game if like Gabe has to sacrifice all his permanents?
That's true. Yeah, Gabe sacrifices everything in play, and he just needs 4 turns to win.
I mean, in theory, I guess I'm trying to think of the removal spells that Gabe has. It would be Smother and Diabolic Edict, and neither of those.
But Smother wouldn't work.
Yeah, neither of those work. Yeah.
Edict wouldn't work either.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is to win next turn as opposed to winning in 3-4 turns.
All right, so we do get to see a little bit of the sideboarding from Galen. So we do see Auramancer and the Swords of Plowshares, things that are unexpected, but I guess it's good for Gabe to know.
Clearly kept in the Druids too. Yeah, so he probably did the old plan of just like shave what you can and squeeze in what you can. He might have done the soft transform and taken like 2 Druids out.
I guess if you're in the spot and if Gabe has a Diabolic Edict,
then he just sacks the bird.
Okay, and then it becomes
a bird with all
a bunch
those
of counters.
Right. So he actually would want to Edict after he pitches the Akroma, and then he makes it a bird, but he cast it last turn, so it's not summoning sick. So assuming he made it more than +20/+20, he still wins.
All right, Gabe had made a correction for Galen that the Akroma attacked again. Then he said, "Wait, that one doesn't tap." And so Galen untapped
Stop
it.
tapping your Akroma.
So,
all right.
not
So
a
2-1
traditional way
Hermit
for the Hermit
Feb.
FEB to win, but now it is up 2 games to 1.
Mm-hmm. Liking how this is going.
So that was a situation where if you name Phyrexian there, that game's a lot different.
Yeah.
Like
If you name Phyrexian there.
Like Galen can't preemptively play the Shapeshifter, right?
Well, so if he names Phyrexian there, what he does is he plays the Hermit Druid.
Okay.
He needs to wait until he has enough mana. He only needs 3 mana. So then he end of turn activates the Hermit Druid. Krosan Reclamation's back the 2 Shapeshifters. Oh, but he had 1 in hand. Doesn't matter. Actually, since he had 1 in hand, it doesn't matter at all. He can just activate Krosan Reclamation back whatever he wants, cast the Shapeshifter with the Psychatog on top.
Okay.
Because that's the thing, like, Plague naming Phyrexian is really good, but it's just a hoop to jump through. Like, it doesn't stop the combo.
All right. Chat is discussing whether it was better to go for the
Yeah.
Given that there's open deck lists, I can't think of a card that Gabe would have to interact. Like, so the removal spells he had were Smother and Diabolic Edict, and I think Galen could have played around those if Gabe had those. So while it is tempting to make your opponent sacrifice all their permanents,
Yeah. I think Robin says it best here. Winning is greater than sack all permanents.
Okay. I mean, with a closed deck list, I might just take my opportunity. I don't know, but
Yeah.
though I guess if you are in that spot and they have Diabolic Edict, you really get blown out, right?
Right.
So maybe that's what Gabe had, because if you have a Akroma there, you block, and then you just Edict. Then you either have to sack the Shapeshifter or you have to sack the bird, and if it's the bird, then you just lose the Shapeshifter anyway.
Right.
So
you lose that Shapeshifter.
So yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's a great call.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely has way more risk to it. And as Robin kind of said there, the general thinking with Hermit FEB is, why bother grinding when you can just win?
All right, so Gabe gets another crack at finding a disruptive hand. I mean, every game he's had at least a Duress or a Cabal Therapy that I think has hit every time.
Yeah, it has.
Only in the first game did he have enough pressure. I guess that's kind of been the difference, is he had pressure in the first game and really hasn't hit. I mean, I guess Negator is pressure, but it came down a little bit later.
And Galen's lands were hurting him really bad.
Okay. If we're waiting on Gabe, it does not seem he's completely sure about his hand, but
and it looks like he puts it back. Yeah, that was probably the old, it's not a bad hand, but I don't think it's good enough to beat this deck.
Okay.
Nice mix of lands and spells.
So
Yeah.
in these post-board games, do you still think Withered Wretch is the hardest card for Galen to play against?
Uh-huh,
Okay.
I do. Well, yeah, thinking about it, I do.
All right, Gabe. It looks like Galen has kept 7, so Gabe is on his first mulligan. He's gonna. Looks like he's gonna keep 6, put 1 on the bottom.
Mm-hmm. So he probably, once again, wants to lead off with a turn 1 Duress or Therapy.
So one of the things that when we were talking about sideboarding for Gabe, when we didn't mention like taking out, could you just take out the rack? Like I feel like, I mean, there are definitely gonna be points where Galen's gonna take damage from it, but I don't feel like in any of those games like you're either like winning or you're losing kind of thing, and
right.
I don't feel like the rack is like the right type of card. I don't know. I feel like a creature is usually just
right.
better.
It's like a guaranteed hit for at least 2, whereas the rack, like, I mean, typically though, Hermit FEB does run out its hand pretty quickly.
Okay. So Duress from Gabe's first turn will show a Survival, a Corrosion Reclamation, and Unearth. Those are the options. Well, Gemstone Mine, Brushland, Hermit Druid, and Wall of Roots are the other options.
I mean, probably just take Survival here unless he's
if you have no answer to the Hermit Druid...
That's what I was going to say, unless he just has no way to deal with the Hermit. But even then, taking the Unearth just slows him down.
So with Gabe pausing, like, do you think that gives Galen any information that like that? Gabe
that definitely means the Hermit Druid is a big problem for his hand. Relevant though, the Krosan Reclamation being in his hand, because when you go to flash back, that makes it the top card of your graveyard instead of. Oh, Death Grip.
Oh, there was a ritual. I missed that. Okay. All right, so the sideboard Death Grip, but I guess.
I mean, unless he gets the ESG here, if he has another swamp, Gabe's in a pretty great position.
But we're also then in the position of, like, Gabe just passing. Like he's just gonna leave every turn with 2 mana up and never like put any pressure on the board. It's possible that Galen can just go like, if he just hits a bunch of lands, that he's able to play Hermit Druid and Survival in 1 turn.
Yeah, totally. But right now we're only seeing the 2 lands. Oh, there's a third.
Okay.
It's a quite good one in this situation. Maybe he... Yeah, I would just pass here.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to waste a Wall of Roots to get countered.
All right, Gabe's just going to draw and pass.
Yeah, that's how this is going to be.
Well, I mean, we know Galen has a 3rd land in hand.
Oh, now a 4th. So, yeah, he just needs 1 more turn.
Which do you think is more important? Which one would you lead with if you're Galen? Which one would you want countered? The Survival or the Hermit Druid? I guess I would almost say the Hermit Druid, because the Survival... Because let's say the Hermit Druid is in play. You still need to resolve a green spell, usually, with Corrosion Reclamation. I guess you could just wait until you draw another Unearth.
Yeah, Survival's definitely the better of the 2.
Okay. Ooh, Enlightened Tutor.
To find another Survival?
Are there no other options?
That's the only thing.
Triskelion.
Yeah, Triskelion Devourer. You know, the 2 cards that you don't want to be drawing because you don't want to feed them to Survival. You want them in your hand. Yeah, no, it's only going to find a Survival.
Well, I guess this is a way where you're kind of denying the option for Gabe, or you're going to resolve a Survival either way. So.
Right. Yeah, because he's probably thinking, like, exactly what we were talking about. Like, he counters the Survival, leaves the Druid, and then until I can get into a position to... Well, the fact that it's in his hand, he can cast the Krosan Reclamation. If it gets countered, flash it back. So I think Galen's just in a great position all around, regardless of the death grip.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just able to resolve a survival, assuming Gabe doesn't like untap and play a Dystopia, but even he does, like Galen would get some activations of the death grip, or not the death grip, the survival.
The survival, yeah.
All right, so death grip got one survival, but the second one snuck through. So Gabe has found his third land. It's a Cabal Pit.
Dystopia.
Yeah, this death grip, like, I mean, it's nice in the sense, but if you just don't have any pressure, you're like pot committed to leaving 2 mana up, and when Galen, like, I mean, it could have been a lot more turns if Galen just doesn't get to like 4 mana.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's with Gabe not having other lands in his hands, you're going to be waiting a lot of number of turns before you're able to deploy a threat.
Yeah, we've pretty much settled on 22 lands. It was 21 lands for a long time. Oh, he kept the scroll in. Interesting. But anyways, reason being, there are so many games where if you're drawing lands, it's actually great for you. Okay. You know, even being a combo deck. Yeah, because I mean, he's got 4 lands. I'd imagine he doesn't run a Wall of Roots into the Death Grip, but Wall of Roots is pretty great to have with an active survival, because you can activate it on your turn, then activate it on their turn, so it's kind of like pseudo haste, and that basically nets you 2 survival activations, where a bird would only net you 1, and you'd have to wait a turn for it.
I'm just trying to think of Krosan Reclamation situations, like shuffling 2 cards back to deny them Threshold so they can't use like a Cabal Pit or a Barbarian Ring.
Yeah, there is a Cabal Pit that could be relevant. So actually in the finals of the Sacred Torch tournament, I killed a Terravore because my opponent had only 1 land in his graveyard. Nice. And I Krosan Reclamationed it away.
Yeah, I do not like Abe's position here. I feel like...
Yeah, I mean, from here...
Yeah, I mean, you can't just do the survival... Or survival for...
At this point, yeah, he's going to survival for a Palinchron. Okay. Because then next turn, he can just... With the Palinchron in the yard... Well, he probably gets Squee, so he has enough creatures, since we don't know the other one. But yeah, survival for a Squee, survival the Squee away to the Palinchron, survival the Palinchron away to get the Shapeshifter.
I mean, do you even need to get the Palinchron here? Can't you just go get like Devourer or Triskelion and Devourer?
Well,
and then
he only has
Devourer
2 creatures.
Yeah, you just pitch a Wall of Roots to get Triskelion.
But he has 4 mana. You need 5 mana to do.
No, but you just do it at the end of Gabe's turn, right? And then untap and then
no. I mean to cast the Shapeshifter. It's pretty risky to leave the Devourer top of your yard.
Okay.
But I mean, he doesn't have much of any instant speed. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe he could just pitch a creature.
Because Diabolic Edict wouldn't be enough, right?
No, because once the Shapeshifter is in play, well, no. So here's the problem. Here's why you want it. Diabolic Edict would be enough in that situation, because if you had the Devourer on top, you cast the Shapeshifter. Oh yeah, no. Then he edicts.
Because you already have the Triskelion in your hand.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. If you already have the Triskelion in hand,
you respond to the Diabolic Edict with more activations, and then you just discard the Triskelion.
But with 2 creatures in hand, he needs to get all 3 of those. Or no, he uses 1 creature to get the Devourer.
If Gabe had a Funeral Charm, that might be a card to make him discard a card in response to the Shapeshifter.
It would be very good here. Okay, so he's using the bird. Yeah, so maybe that's what he's doing. He's using the bird to get a Shapeshifter, then use the Druid or the Wall of Roots to get a Devourer, use the Devourer to get
Triskelion.
the Triskelion, and then next turn
untap
just
and
cast the Shapeshifter, Devourer in the yard, and with that last mana, you activate it to make a Triskelion.
I do believe we are on Gabe's end step right now, yes.
Yeah. See, that's the thing about this deck. Like, it's so crazy and the lines are so weird that even having played it for a year and a half now, I had to think that through. Like, that wasn't an automatic thought to me.
Well, we do have to like double check and be like, are we casting any green spells that Death Grip would come into play?
Right.
So
it's relevant.
That's probably not a card that you've practiced much against.
I have yet to have a Death Grip played against me.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing anything with Galen of like going through lines and trying to figure out what is the optimal play. Sometimes it just feels risky and it's kind of like, well, if I might not win this turn if I'm just going to win the next turn, and then
right. So he gets Squee. Uses the Squee. I mean, he could still do what we were saying, but maybe he missed it. Let's see. Is there anything else he's worried about? Like we said, the Diabolic Edict. No, that's it. Everything else is sorcery.
Palinchron, discarding Palinchron. Because this would be a spot, like if you're going for the Palinchron, then Diabolic Edict would come into play, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because you gotta...
You could respond to that
untap,
trigger.
He responds to the untap trigger, for sure. Gets a Devourer. Activates pitching Druid. Yeah, it's pitching Palinchron.
Okay. I guess does the...
Gets the Shapeshifter.
The 1 counter on the Gemstone Mine change things?
It absolutely
Because before... I thought there were 3
well, no,
counters
it doesn't.
Well, if you're not going for a Palinchron line, it does, right? Because you...
Right. Well, because he doesn't need the 4th mana.
Oh, no.
Since he has the
it still would have
Palinchron.
been fine, right? You just use it for the survival activation. And...
Well, he has the Palinchron on top right now.
Yeah, I'm saying if you didn't have the Palinchron line, that like you would be able to use it to discard the Triskelion, for the way that I talked about it. Like you
The way we had talked about it, you wouldn't have used the Gemstone because you
Okay.
would have only searched 3 times at the end of turn.
Okay. So it would have had 2 the next. Okay.
Right.
On the turn.
Okay. Let's see. Is he gonna get punished?
So Diabolic Edict is, well, no, Smother isn't up target.
No, Smother's not relevant because it's a Palinchron. Only the Edict. Oh. Only 1. What is he casting?
Dark Ritual.
1 followed by... Is he being a showman? 2. Is it the Edict?
It is.
It is the Edict.
So Galen getting punished, I think, for this line.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause
And I mean, hey, that was the first thing I thought of.
Mhm.
You know, if you hadn't stopped me, I probably would have done exactly this.
I mean, I'll say like, it's probably more because you've played this deck more, and that's like the traditional thing you do is you get the Palinchron and whatnot, and so
Right, you look at your mana
Yeah.
and you think, do I have 5? No, then I need to do the Palinchron line, but No, you're absolutely right. In this situation, he should have found everything, Devourer in yard.
All right, so Gabe's got a new lease at life, I think. Is this suddenly a position where like Gabe is now favored, or is it like can he just
no, because he can still
do it
next turn. Yeah. Oh, he's playing the Druid, sneaking it past the now tapped Death Grip.
Ooh, is there a Dark Ritual? Ooh,
there is. Wow.
Dark Ritual so they can activate the Death Grip. Constellation Birds of Paradise.
Yeah. Which is helpful, having more mana here, not having to worry about that. I mean, now the top card of his graveyard doesn't matter, so the gemstone is fine.
Well, I will say, is the bird ever a liability that if it could died,
get killed? Oh, and he's got the cursed scroll out.
Yeah.
Well, he taps too.
Ooh, Withered Wretch.
Wow, the meter just swung the other direction.
So what does Galen do here? So there's a Squee in the yard, right?
Yes.
So that might be something that Gabe might want to do right now.
Yeah.
I should update Galen's life total.
I mean, he has 5 mana. But the problem is he can't leave the Devourer in the yard now. He needs to be able to cast a Shapeshifter.
You got to use this activation, right? Of this Withered Wretch. You don't give it. I don't know if I agree with that.
Ooh, wow.
What is he leaving up? Is it because it's 2 mana for something else, or is he like think Death Grip's important here?
I think yes, he's probably thinking Death Grip's important, but the other thing is he's probably thinking he wants 2 activations to take out, to have more options when things are in the yard. The problem is if he casts the Shapeshifter. So does he have enough mana to... Alright, so he searches with Squee.
He just gets finds
Shapeshifter.
He has a Gitu Fire Slinger, right?
Shapeshifter.
Or Gitu Slinger?
Yeah, he just finds Gitu Slinger.
And kills the Withered Wretch?
Yeah.
FTK at home.
So the relevant thing about Gitu Slinger is that he's 3 mana for Unearth shenanigans.
Okay. Give us fire.
That's why you play him over FTK. But yeah, what I was just trying to think of was the line, because it's undisruptible if you have Shapeshifter, Devour, and Trike in hand, and the 5 mana to cast and activate Survival twice. Problem is unless he has Shapeshifter or Trike as the unknown card, he needs another Survival activation in order to do that.
Okay. Chat's talking about portal cards that they want to see. They talk about Fire Imp and Sea Drake.
Sea Drake, yep, that's a big fan favorite.
I think Sea Drake could only do good for this format. I don't think much harm could come of Sea Drake. I don't know if I could say the same about like Imperial Recruiter. I think that one might have a little bit more problems.
Well, so would it be just Portal 1 or would it be all 3 portals?
Oh, I mean, like, I think if one of them comes through, I think you have to let them all.
Yeah, because even 3 Kingdoms was still in the Premodern era, right? It's before
I think
2003. So. Yeah, it's all bordered, so it has to be.
Whereas Mike Arnold's probably talking about like what is it, Brimstone Dragon, so that he can play his Firestorm deck.
And people always love Jungle Lion too. That usually gets brought up.
Yeah. That would probably be the card that I would play.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. In one of your zoo decks?
Yeah.
Alright, so Galen's probably trying to figure out how he recovers. So he just tapped a Brushland. Gabe is scrolling something, so maybe they're looking up a ruling. Oh, they're talking to us.
His doorbell rang.
Oh. He's getting the door. Oh, there's good old Jungle Lion.
His Uber Eats is coming. He's ready to recharge.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Galen's on the West Coast, so it's about 7 there.
Yeah.
I'd imagine he didn't eat dinner before.
Laney's saying if that Palinchron takes all my channel points, I'm going to be salty.
And he also said if Galen gives poor justification for getting Pally in the post-game interview, he's going to fall down in the ranking.
So I just noticed, I'm looking at like, so the bottom corner of each of the names. So like next to your screen, it says in parentheses you, right?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Gabe has typed his name as Gabe F parentheses you, so that it shows that as well.
Oh my god. Wow. That is a joke for Gabe only.
Yeah. I'm glad I noticed it in this moment.
Man. That's hilarious. So to him it says Gabe F parentheses you parentheses you.
Yep.
It's hilarious. And he won't mention it. He'll wait for somebody else to mention it.
Well, it's much more satisfying than like he just I mean, maybe he just always has it, like, and that's how he plays his matches.
I bet he does.
So.
Just a subtle joke. Okay, he's tapping 4, losing the gemstone. Or no, the Brushland was an activation.
Okay.
Then 3 mana to cast a Shapeshifter. But it's just a Shapeshifter. He's got Cursed Scroll out.
Yeah, this seems problematic. And
well, I mean, so he can activate it again, pitching the Devourer, pump it up.
Yeah, but you also.
But the problem
run the risk
is
of it dying then, right?
Right. He's got the Withered Wretch out. So unless that's an ESG in his hand.
So this Smother is targeting. Is this targeting the Shapeshifter?
Probably, so it'll just fizzle now that it's a Devourer.
He gets
ESG. Oh, he's putting it towards exile. It's ESG.
So okay,
the one card. The one card that could do it. Yeah, I think Galen has it.
All right, so in response to the Smother, Galen's going to make the Shapeshifter a Devourer, and because he has Triskelion and Elvish Spirit Guide, he's able to do this before Gabe's able to untap and do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, is there
Crazy
any
Carl
chance that
said
he just doesn't
Devour
have
for
enough
ESG,
cards? No.
but the problem is if he had done that, he wouldn't have another creature to survival away. So the fact that the ESG was the one card in hand, Galen, he pulled it off.
All right, so Galen in a spectacular fashion wins the match 3-1.
Yeah,
so
that was great.
Let's jump down to our players, and
right,
we can chat it out. Let me find the right scene. Here we go.
Hello, boys.
All right,
And we have unmuted you.
I haven't yet.
What a match, but especially what a game
Yeah.
4. You all right there, Galen?
No. Yeah. That was intense.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess should we just straight up ask the Palinchron line?
So I don't know that. I mean, I wasn't sure the Palinchron line was right. I didn't have it counted out in a Palinchron freeway, but I expect there'll be lots of decompressing about what a more optimal line was there. Yeah, I wasn't seeing how to play around. I mean, in a lot of respects, Palinchron is like a free roll, right? Because like I've got to cast a shifter, so do I want the mana back or do I not want to get the mana back?
Right.
Only if I can get myself into a position with 5 mana and the 2 things in hand, and it wasn't clear to me how to do that. But maybe there was a way to do that, and I just like overlooked it.
So what we were talking about is at the end of turn,
For the record, I have no one to talk to about my deck, because if I walk in my bedroom and talk to my wife about it, she won't know what I'm talking about. Just keep going. I just want to be clear about this.
We'll get to you.
No, I'm just kidding around.
if you had Devourer, if you get Triskelion, and because you had Wall of Roots and you had Hermit Druid in your hand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
I had
get
creatures.
You get a Devourer, and then you get a Triskelion.
Oh, I don't get Squee.
No.
Right. Don't get
Squee was the
Squee.
trap.
You
I
just
shouldn't get Squee.
You just have
Yeah.
Devourer be your top card and get Triskelion in your hand, and then you cast the Shapeshifter and have green up, and you can play around Diabolic Edict because you can just activate the Devourer.
No. So the problem was I didn't think about Palinchron free lines until after I'd fetched Squee.
Okay.
And so
Once you
I-
had survival out, I think it was deterministic, honestly.
Well, I
yeah.
mean, the way it was going, once you got that Wretch afterwards, if he hadn't have had that ESG, he wouldn't have been able to win that turn. And
It's true.
You definitely were in a great position at that point.
Yeah, he had too
Because-
many creatures, though, for me to clean everything out. Because I would
Well-
need to leave the 2 mana up open for the Death Grip.
But you don't at that point because he already had the survival out.
Survival, yeah.
I guess Gabe.
Yeah, you're right. He doesn't need the.
The
he
question
doesn't
we
need the
had
Hermit
was
at this point.
when you had 2 mana open, you have Death Grip, you have Withered Wretch, and Galen goes through his turn, and there's a Squee activation. So what is the value of having black open as compared to exiling that Squee?
This is what you missed. What Galen said before. He should have had the Squee in hand already, and I was being a gentleman, let him have it back.
Okay.
Because he should have brought it back to hand beforehand.
Okay, a turn before. Okay.
Right. That's what you're talking about in game 4.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed that.
Okay.
Yeah. He should have returned it a turn earlier.
But no, if it makes you feel better, Galen, I was talking about doing your line, and Hoyp was the one that said no, he can actually do it now.
Yeah.
And
I
was
think
like,
that has to do with more of my inexperience with the deck, as I don't know. So
well, because Galen, correct me if I'm wrong, but your logic was I don't have the 5 mana that is necessary for the unbeatable FEB line. Like
Yeah.
you look down, you saw 4 lands, and you probably just thought like I don't have the necessary 5 mana, not
Yeah.
thinking about leaving the Devourer on top of the graveyard. The other thing I was saying is maybe that feels too risky.
It's not. If I'm doing an end of turn, it's not really risky because he doesn't have like instant interaction with my graveyard. So as long as the Wretch isn't in play,
Yeah.
Right.
it's just a crit.
I don't have a Coffin Purge or anything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, if he has Coffin Purge, then that you can debate that.
Yeah, because we were kind of saying like Diabolic Edict is the one card that was really relevant there, because Smother wouldn't have dealt with it. You just make it a Devourer. So the fact that you had the Diabolic Edict was pretty amazing, Gabe.
Because I figured, I'll tell you why I brought it in, because I figured he's going to sack creatures to Cabal Therapy and maybe end up at some point in a pinch point with 1 creature.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's funny because I was actually like the benefit of that line is if he has Edict. There's things that can go wrong. Like I almost passed the turn because even with full retch activations, I can set myself up pretty well for winning the next turn. But if he taps out to kill it, then I've got the win. So it was like setting a little bit of a trap there. But I mean, if he untaps and smothers it with retch, with retch mana open, then I think I lose there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because that was your second shapeshifter at that point too.
that was my second shapeshifter at that point.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty much cut off. Yeah. So in hindsight, I could have lost that game. But yeah, it all came down to missing the earlier line.
Yeah.
I don't think you were in risk. I think even if I start retching, you can pull out more Squee. Like you there's things you can get around it. You can then, like, if I'm tapping on my mana for retch, you can then try to push a Hermit through. You can get a Cabal Therapy out and like take care of whatever interaction. Like, you're just gonna have so many lines to play out, and I just only have so much disruption.
I mean, at some point, at that point, if you end up removing my Hermits and you don't have any pressure, I just start building my mana base and casting Akroma.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, which is what happened when I got short on mana in game 4, and we were just draw going. Like, if I had at least those next 2 turns, pull out 2 swamps, and then cast the Withered Wretch earlier, at least that's like a little bit of pressure. But like, yeah, I think the mana screw in game 4 hurt me a bunch.
Yeah.
And the fact that, Galen, didn't you draw those 2 lands off the top?
I think so, yeah, because I had Duress.
No, I drew a
Yavimaya Coast and Reflecting Pool were the cards you drew.
Because I don't know at what point, but it's some like late in that series I drew the Bird of Paradise.
No, I'm talking early.
Oh, early? Yeah, I guess I did
When
like
it
that.
was like he played the Death Grip, and all we could see as far as lands in your hand was the 1 Gemstone Mine. And so we were saying, like, he's just got to wait till he gets the 4 mana in order to cast.
I drew a land off the top to get around it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty great.
But I had a couple of turns to draw it, so it wasn't like that.
Mike, I thought you were supposed to be impartial. That was pretty great.
I mean, it went great.
No, I'm teasing.
We all know if Mike's coming in to do commentary on Hermit FEB, he's not going to be impartial.
This is retribution for when you beat me over a year ago.
Yeah, that's right. That was last September.
September monthly, yeah.
Yeah. But no, Galen, I think you it was really interesting listening to you talk through the lines, and I know you said you felt like I had a lot coming at you, but I don't know. I felt like, especially evidenced by the fact that you went 8-0, like, it just, I think I told you I lost to McLean in batch 1. Like, if this was like standard pit rack, I guess you would call it, where it's like the Chain of Smogs and the Funeral Charms and just really like disrupting you hard, then I think I have a better chance. But
probably, but like we said, if you give me too much time, like the disruption doesn't. Survival's so resilient that if you give me enough time to do survival things, it doesn't. You need to be able to close out the game. So I'm not sure. I think, for example, you were absolutely correct to bring in the Phyrexian negators. Like, totally the right play. Like, I don't like you may have brought those in over dystopias, and I think they're probably better. Or maybe about the dystopias.
I think I was like 2-1 in game 2, and then I switched the other way around to or game 3, I mean, and then I switched the other way around to 1 and 2.
Oh, interesting.
I was hoping to draw a dystopia there in game 4 once the survival is out, but like even then, if I tap out for dystopia, you sack the survival. I don't have any mana up for the Death Grip, and then you just play a Hermit Druid and you can win that way.
Yeah, that was the idea.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, those were massively tight games. I thought you played very, very, very
Thank
well.
you. Same to you.
Well, I mean, this is for the audience at home. Yeah, so I am now 9-0 this deck, not playing perfectly. This deck is so hard to play.
It is.
I've truthfully won some games that I definitely could have lost. If my opponents had played a little bit differently. But like, the deck has a lot of potential. You don't need to play it perfectly to do well, but if you do play it perfectly, which I do not, it's just very, very powerful.
Yeah, and I guess I'll note, like, kind of what you alluded to. It's very difficult to play perfectly against too. So
Right.
like even when
It
opponents
is.
have listened to podcasts about it or have talked about it or maybe have played it before, it's very easy to missequence your things or not do the right things and leave a window open that otherwise you could close.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, as someone who has played against it a bunch, at least the way I see it is, you've got the Akroma thing, you've got the Psychatog thing, you've got the Karmic, you've got all these things that I have to deal with, and then even if I can like whack-a-mole every single one of them, you've got this ultimate like ace in the hole of Devourer Trike, doesn't use the combat step. You can like, no matter how many retch activations I respond to, you can just keep flipping. Like, it just, you have this like ace in the hole or whatever in your back pocket that like, even if I fight through everything else, I win.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's
So
the
it's like, yeah.
undisruptible combo within other combos.
Yeah. So I'm sure when I did the E-Play, game 3, right? Everyone was up in arms that I didn't name Phyrexian or Construct or whatever, right?
You mentioned it.
Yeah,
we weren't
because
sure. So, yeah.
because my thought was like, look, I can try to attack everything else, or I can try to attack that and just hope, but maybe if I attack everything else, hope I don't get to that point where I have to deal with but he was able to fight through it.
In that game state,
It's definitely
Hermit
a big decision.
was the much more threatening name from my perspective. I would have much rather, because I've got
Can't even get you started.
Phyrexian is a speed bump. It's that
What's speed bump?
naming Phyrexian or
Yeah.
Construct, that's a speed bump that I can get around, but it's difficult. It
Because
requires a
Psychatog?
lot more resources. Whereas just cutting me off from the Hermit line when that's what was in my hand was just like a devastatingly powerful play.
So how do you get around it? Psychatog?
Yeah, well, there's different ways. There's like you can get around it with Psychatog on FEB lines, and if you're playing the if you're just hard casting Shifter, it's never as a creature in your graveyard. It never experiences life as a Phyrexian, right?
Right.
So if I've got like a Bird of Paradise in my yard,
As long as you're not doing an Unearth trick,
yeah, as long as I'm doing the
pretty much able to work around it.
Yeah.
But that can be a huge speed bump.
It's a speed bump. It's a definite. So it's not always correct to name Hermit. Naming Phyrexian is a speed bump against both lines.
Yeah.
Naming
I think on
Hermit
turn
cuts
one,
off one line altogether.
to me, from my point of view, turn 1 off a Dark Ritual, I think I name Hermit to stop you from getting started. If it's like turn 3, 4, and we're like, staring at each other, whatever, then maybe I name Construct.
I think that's right. I think that's exactly right. Or I think you want Phyrexian, not
You want Phyrexian because Volrath Shapeshifter has been errata to be a Phyrexian. And so that way, if you can change the top card to a non-creature, then it's just a Phyrexian Shapeshifter and dies on the spot.
Yeah, then it adds an extra turn to my Negator kill, though.
Oh, right.
Because it's also a Phyrexian.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Worth it.
It's worth it.
Better than dying.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's and the fact that there's 2 of these decks in the top 8 are I think is impressive. And like I said, I think it just got so many redundancies. And I tried to fight it. I mean, game 1 worked, but like even then, I had to come out swinging so hard.
Yeah, you had pretty great game 1 like that. I said as soon as the
everything had
Wretch
to
was
go
out, yeah, I was like, all right, he's got the Wretch out and unsideboarded. There's really nothing Galen can do about it.
Would you guys ever put like a wish or anything in the deck?
In the main
Like a
deck?
living wish? Yeah, like a living wish to get an orangutan, to get a Gitu, whatever.
I don't think it's good enough. I think
Wish
that
was a creature, but
Yeah.
that's the big
You
thing.
can manifest it.
Whenever we're brewing with this deck, it's kind of like, all right, if we're gonna add this card, is it a creature? Like that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
well, and,
'Cause-
and I mean, more on point to your question, more tempting than putting a wish in the deck would be, should I be playing either a main deck Monk Realist, or, which I'm not even playing the sideboard, or Orangutan? Those are
Realist
always
is the
cards
one that
you're-
kills or that brings it back.
kills
Those
the
are the ones that kill artifacts and enchantments.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And because and classic Fab tends to play those two because it has more slots and it's more control-ish. It's just the opportunity cost for fitting them in the main deck. I don't think it pencils out, but like that's if I was in an environment where I felt that was necessary, that would be what I would do, which is kind of like playing a Wish. I'm playing a survival target at that point.
Sure. Yeah. It's toolbox. Who wins? Who do you think is favored? Hermit Feb versus regular Feb?
I think Hermit Feb is favored.
Yeah.
Because
it's got so many different angles.
Yeah, and regular Feb is a combo deck. I mean, it can definitely win by therapying away the Hermit and then racing, but like there's just
you have to have everything go right.
When you do like the Who's Advantage Matrix, more of those are going to come out on a Hermit side than on Classic Feb side.
Yeah.
But there are definitely decks where I would much rather be like if I'm playing at Sly, I would much rather be playing Classic Feb than Hermit. Same against Dreadnought. Like if I'm
because you don't have to worry about them burning out your Hermit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Hermit's a bit of a liability there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, some decks the Hermit is just not good, and by having all those extra slots open, I mean that's why we do the transformational sideboard in certain matchups, because it's just like it's not worth it.
What's the transformation?
You take out the Hermit Druid and bring in. You take out the Hermit Druid, the Coffin Purge, the Krosan Reclamation, and depending on what you're bringing in, you could take out the Akroma and Karmic Guide as well. And then you've opened up 6 to 8 slots that you can turn into a devoted Feb deck. We do that against Sly. That's how we make room for the Chills and the Enlightened Tutor.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that's why, for example, one of the reasons that I'm playing the Intuition, in addition to it's just like, strength as a flex card, is that Intuition lets me play a transformational game just a little bit better. If I had 16 sideboard slots, I might have another Enlightened Tutor in my sideboard. As it stands, it just doesn't. I've not chosen to make the room for it. But like, it's a very important card against Sly because I must find survival and probably chill, but definitely survival to win that game, to win that matchup. So, and even Intuition is like, seems slow, but like, you get your chill down and then Intuition finds survival and you can win that way. Whereas if you don't find survival, you're just dead. Doesn't matter.
So what about for those, because not everyone plays Intuition, right?
Yeah, I mean, and so then they're just don't have like the one slightly weaker card, but then Meddling Mage kicks in because Meddling Mage lets you play like it's kind of not that dissimilar from the Blue-Eyed Dreadnought's plan of playing Meddling Mage beats as a plan B. Well, like having 3 Meddling Mages lets the deck play a pretty strong control role against a lot of matchups.
It's such a good card, yeah. You didn't bring up any against me.
No, you've got too many things to worry about. Like there's like Wretch is bad, but like also Plague Spitter's bad, also Duress is bad. Like it's just like there's just too many things too much work for Mage to do, I think. I feel like
Meddling Mage naming Wither Wretch like pretty much locks you up.
No. Like, you can definitely beat me without Wither Wretch. Like, I mean, if I don't find survival, and I often don't find survival, a lot of games I just don't have survival, and you smother and then gets Plague Splitter out, and I just lose. You don't need the Wretch.
let me know when it happens.
To rest away the survival, and he just can't find another.
Let me know when that happens.
Pretty sure you've done that to me at some point, Gabe.
Yeah, probably. I guess Galen now has jumped over you in the Hermit Feb rankings.
It seems to be what people in the chat are saying.
Oh, really?
Definitely not.
Gabe, what did you take out? Because we were.
I took out 3 Spitters. I took out 2 Skittering Scourges. Then I shifted around between games 3 and 4 between just like trying to fiddle around. I think I shaved one foul imp at one point, and I think I took out a bottomless pit at one point because I don't think bottomless pit's very good against you because you just want to discard stuff anyway. So it's the 3 spitters, the 2 scourges, and then just like trimming around the edges.
I think Spitter's a pretty good card. I wouldn't cut that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. What?
Well, there's
I'm
a
curious
conflict
why
there
you
with
kept
Negator, right?
The Cursed Scrolls in.
Is another way to get at Hermit if I need to.
Okay.
Or if I can keep him locked out, I can just chip in. It can help me get over the top.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you think Cursed Scroll should come out? I mean, it makes sense.
I feel like the Spitter is a better card against the Hermit line.
Repeating source of damage. Yeah.
Well, and also the scroll is pretty slow. Like Hermit might be able to go off before you can even activate the scroll.
Which will happen.
The Spitter you can ritual out, and then he just can't play a Hermit.
Yeah, I can see that. I think there's a conflict between Spitter and Negator. Like you got to pick one or the other. And I think I wrote this that I feel like if I were to do this again, I think I played Phil Taylor in batch 1. And we were talking after the match. And he suggested, like, what about Spectre, Hypnotic Spectre in the sideboard instead of Negator? Because it kind of does the same thing, but in a different way against combo, right?
Yeah.
And I think if I were to run it back, I probably would cut the Scourges for, I don't know, like more creature removal. And I would probably put Spectres in the sideboard instead of Negator, because then there's no conflict. I can run Spectres alongside
Spitter.
Plague Spitter, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you have Spitter and then you play a Negator, it's like you just sacrifice the Spitter and then sacrifice a land and then just attack with your 5/5. I don't know. Like, probably all their guys are dead. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess I see what you're saying. But yeah,
I mean, don't underestimate killing birds. Like that can be pretty.
Yeah.
It should be hard to develop my board around Spitter.
Yeah, I mean, guys, I made the top 8. I think I know what I'm doing.
Wait, do you have experience with mono black decks?
Yeah. No, I will say I know a lot of people pan these decks, and it has obvious weaknesses that I saw throughout the tournament, and even like tonight. But I think they're not as bad as people make them out to be.
I have
there's a lot of room to explore here. I think still with black, mono black or black. I mean, look at Travis. I don't know when he's playing, but like. He's got a mostly black deck, splashing green, that is like really cool. Impressive.
Can't wait to see that one.
So,
I've lost to mono black a lot, so I have a lot of respect for it.
Yeah. I mean, going into this, I honestly thought that Galen was not going to make it.
I thought I was 45%, and I think that would be correct.
No, and I think I told you before, I put myself at like 25. Because
really?
Because I got ranched by McLean. Like I had a turn 1 Dark Ritual, Duress, Withered Wretch in game 2 against him, and he won on like turn 5.
Wow.
So
yeah.
Withered Wretch main deck is fantastic, by the way. It's like my favorite thing here.
For sure.
And because it just helps against so many things. And I think honestly if I were to play Dead Guy again soon, I would try to put a main deck, or like depending on the mana base, like I might try to talk myself into it in Rock, even though it's only 2 mana and it's going to die on your first deed activation. Maybe like against certain decks, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, especially with the rising popularity of Terravore decks.
Yeah. Well,
so that was the MVP, right?
Yeah, it was that and Powder Keg were pretty good. Yeah, so like if I can against where I would call like a fairer deck, I think like Madness or any of those green decks like you referenced, Terraclysm or whatever. Like if you can get it going and you have the mana open, it just sort of paralyzes them. You saw it slowed Galen down a bunch, but like if they're trying to do fair things against it and I can just counter it, like I countered a Pernicious Deed, I countered an Arrogant Worm. Like there's just a lot that you can like contain with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and then I think there's a lot like that plus Dystopia to like if something sneaks through that you can still like deal with it. But I mean, it's still black does have some obvious weaknesses.
Black Disenchant is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Except against stuff like what was it? Someone played I think someone played a Spiritmonger and then changed the color on me. And it was like,
All right.
I haven't seen that since 2001.
Yeah, I was gonna say he used that mode of the Spearmonger. Interesting.
Yeah. I can't remember the last time I saw that. Probably around the last time I put a counter on a singular vampire.
There you go.
But yeah, no, I'm happy to have made the top 8. And I think I hope that some other people take it and run with it and figure out, how to tune it even more. Because I think the issue is with mono black, you have to find the right balance between disruption and aggression so that you can still close out a game, but you can still mess with them enough to get to the point to close out a game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
and I'm looking forward to seeing you and McLean in the finals.
Yeah.
You guys were playing the finals, right?
They had to play in batch 2 already.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, you
Yeah,
won 2-0.
We had an epic winner match. It was intense. It all came down to Hermit mirrors because we have Coffin Purges in our deck. So Hermit Druid is a control card.
Yeah.
And so we just had these face-offs and trying to force the issue at the right time. And I ended up once again forcing the issue at the wrong time, but benefiting from my opponent's misplay. So
did you win 2-0 or 2-1?
I went 2-0.
Okay. Yeah.
But it easily could have gone the other way.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like it's like that Spider-Man meme staring at each other, right?
Galen, what did you end up taking out? Because we had kind of talked about, are you going to take out some of the Hermit Druids?
Oh yeah. So I ended up I brought in just one Naturalize. I decided that I wanted one Naturalize on the draw. If I'd been on the play, I think I would have kept only one therapy. So I basically took out all the discard, left in one therapy. I kind of went with Robin's plan, more or less. But for everyone else, it was cutting one therapy, cutting or cutting.
I'm going to start a Pit Rack Discord, but it's just going to be me posting my own list. No one else invited.
What do you think we should sideboard here?
Yeah. Talking to myself.
And I brought in the Oromancer. I brought in the the swords, obviously, and so I basically had 7 cards and the Slinger.
Yeah.
Now what I thought about, and I did decide that on the draw I wanted to cut Intuition. On the play I think I would have kept it, but on the draw I wanted to cut it.
Because it'll be too slow. You'll be
it's just a little bit too slow. It can come in handy in a top deck war, but yeah, it's a little bit too slow, and I might just be dead by the time I'm able to Intuition and get anything going. Or you have Pit Racks out, and so it just I can't EOT do anything. I think I would have kept in. Oh, and the other thing is I was back and forth on cutting Birds of Paradise, but I sniffed out that you might not be playing all of your Plague Spitters. But if you have all the Plague Spitters, then I was actually in my testing I was cutting it. I decided at the last minute to keep the Naturalized, but I was I tested cutting one just one Birds just to make me less vulnerable to Plague Spitter because
so hold on. You've got in your sideboard the E-Tutor, which you brought in, right? You've got the 2 Naturalizes, which you brought in, right? Did you bring in the Orangutan, you said?
No, didn't bring in the Orangutan. You know how many cards I care about.
You brought in the Slinger?
So Slinger, Oromancer.
Yeah.
The 3 swords.
Yeah.
The Naturalized. Swords is for Wretch, and the Wretch, or just slowing down your clock, but mostly for Wretch. And I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about Slinger, thinking about Naturalize, which is Death Grip's a good answer too.
So yeah, this is what I brought in for discard.
Yeah.
So, but I think it might be correct to cut a Birds. I'm not sure.
The camera's on you, not the table.
Oh, sorry.
I've
Yeah.
But I think maybe I should be cutting birds, and I'm not sure. I didn't, but I decided not to.
no, because I think you need the mana to do all the stuff in one turn. That would be my opinion.
Yeah. Second naturalized versus birds is like unclear to me.
Say it one more time. Second naturalized
Second
versus birds.
naturalized versus
Yeah.
Naturalized versus
one
birds
bird.
paradise. I'm just not sure which is better.
Yeah. Well, okay. So are you worried about bottomless pit or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fun to play against a bottomless pit.
Like, I mean, like, I need to have things in hand to. I can win with Hermit with nothing else going on, but I can't win with Survival. I mean, with Squee, I can sometimes. Like, if all you have is bottomless pit, I can beat that. But it's another thing, along with a lot of other hateful things that can just overtax my resources.
See, and I felt like I'm just going to be handing you free, like dump the Devourer into the graveyard, dump the whatever into the Akroma into the graveyard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know that it's. I mean, I don't know for sure that it's better than what you brought in for it, but it definitely, in a vacuum, it is a pain to play against.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that you want to have a fair amount of creatures in hand so that you can get the multiple survival activations, especially since we've gone down to one Squee.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it's basically like it turns it into I have to play more of a grindy survival deck, and like you were saying, like if you're dumping cards into the yard, you can't do that and then wait a turn and then do it again. Like you have to be doing all the things on like one turn.
It also just like I need to develop my mana base. Like you're gonna make me discard my lands. Like it's so annoying.
No, I mean I didn't think about the one Squee part of it. That's true. I'm thinking about like decks that have like 3 or 4, like against the Madness deck, for instance, like Bottomless Pit is just like terrible against them. They're just pitch and squeeze and whatever. And,
right.
But yeah,
that's
if you only got the one Squee, for sure.
Story.
Yeah. Then you just got 2 cards at hand after you return the Squee, and yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah. Because I feel
about,
like against traditional pit rack, where you don't have like the Wretch's Mane and stuff, like pit is oftentimes what I'll name with Cabal Therapy in the blind.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember when you were on your blue-white?
When I played a Meddling Mage against you?
Yeah, for those who don't know, Mike beat me in, was it July, right?
I think it was
in the top, or July
June,
monthly?
The June monthly.
I was on a different pit rack, and you were on blue-white Dreadnought, and you dropped a Meddling Mage and naming Bottomless Pit, and by the end of the game, when you beat me, I literally had all 4 pits in hand.
Yeah.
It just, here's my hand, it's 4 pits.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I don't know. I thought pit wasn't but like you're right, with only one Squee.
I'm not saying it was incorrect to cut it. I just, in a vacuum, it does some work.
Yeah. And in this deck, it's usually like, I almost want to say it's like a finisher, like it slams the door, get a couple creatures out against a control deck or against, a mid-range deck or whatever, and then just drop the pit, and it sort of puts them on their heels, and they can't find the answers or assemble the answers or whatever to deal with the pressure I've got.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Anyone still watching?
Yeah, actually got quite a lively
Some people
chat.
hanging out, but yeah. I guess we'll just take this moment. Is there anything else you guys want to add? I feel like we did cover a lot of angles of the match, and so.
I just want to say thanks to you,
Michael,
for hosting this, and also for like everything else you've done these past 5 years with Premodern.
100%, Mike. Kudos.
And you
Please
as well,
stop
Mike.
because it's getting too big. No, but thank you, Mike, for organizing it and the awesome graphics you do. And I'm just gonna be honest, like I definitely like try to step up my game for the spring fall brawl to try to make top 8s, because like this is fun, these conversations, seeing you make a graphic, like even just answering the poll questions or whatever, and coming up with snarky funny answers, like it adds to it. And so like and that's a credit and kudos to you.
How many spring fall brawl top 8s do you have, Gabe?
This is my second.
Okay, I thought I might have been more than that. So I was like,
This is my second.
it seems like
third.
Okay.
Third.
All right.
Nice.
Right.
Third. It was because it was fall 2020, right around the Biden election, was Dead Gael, and then fall 2021.
Did you have another
was
Pit
the
Rack
earlier
deck?
version of this deck? Yeah,
Yeah.
it was the earlier version of this deck. Was fall 21. I lost in the top 8 to Nils.
So there's
And
something about
then,
fall and not spring.
Spring is busy time for me. So, but I think I've had like 2 top 16s in the spring too. But yeah, no, I mean, I think what you do, Mike. So we talk about like how competitive we want this format to be and stuff like that, right? And like, you know, if you're putting money on the line, what is it? You know, is that going to incentivize people the wrong way? But I think, Mike, frankly, Mike, you do it the right way, in that the incentivization is like still like fun, engaging stuff. I think you definitely have found a really good balance in that regard. So I can keep complimenting you if you want.
He didn't stop you.
Yeah, but I appreciate the kind words, but yeah, it's fun to do this, and yeah, like I mean, I'll thank Andrew, because it's like there's still monthlies that I only have to do this twice a year, and he does it all like 10 other months. So props to Andrew for running all the other monthlies.
Sure.
But yeah, I do enjoy doing these now and then. So
Yeah.
I mean, what I was saying to Gabe, I don't know if I got this out before we started, was that I mean, Andrew is obviously just like huge in the amount of work that he's done in carrying the monthlies, because that's just like the lifeblood of the format. But or at least, you know, it was a little bit less so now that there's more IRL events. But I don't think that in terms of like early action to publicize the format and to put content out there and to catch the eye of you know, not just the public, but also some premier players. I think that your series was just huge. And because I mean, the production value, and it was like so early with such ridiculously high production value. That, and then, you know, like I guess the format's strong with Mike's, because there's, you know, you Michael Harris as well, but also Mike Arnold, like you know, a lot of Mike's putting out great content.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a common name or something.
Wasn't it the most common name from like, you know,
For like
however many
20 years in a row in America.
1975 to 1990 or something like that?
Yeah.
So.
But the thing is, like, the pre-modcast was kind of for us. Like, it was for those that were already like devoted. I don't know that anyone like found the format through the pre-modcast, but I definitely think that people found the format through the fall ball.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
Because
also,
it's like a podcast is something you're only really going to listen to if you already know. All right, I'm going to spend 2 hours like hearing somebody talk about this, but like watching a game is what people need in order to see like, oh, how does this format play out? Like
yeah.
What are the
and even before the flames, like you did your own streaming with like the camera and everything was just like, again, just like
The hand cam,
the hand cam, like and the commentary, like just really high production value. So
I'll tell you one of the most interesting things. It was December 2020, Mike Hoyp. You and I played in a monthly. I was on Psychatog, you were on Welder, and it was I thought it was a really interesting match we had back and forth. And then when you put out the video, and I was able to watch your hand cam, and then think through whatever decisions I had made at the time. For me at least, it was a very interesting learning experience that you inadvertently provided me to like really think through and watch the game again. It's weird. I remember all those details because I'm like standing at the ATM, like didn't remember my PIN code, but I remember all that.
I feel like I remember.
I gotta go help my 5-year-old get to bed.
Okay.
This has been a pleasure. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Congratulations, Galen.
All right.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Good luck, Galen.
Great game, Gabe.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll take this opportunity to wrap things up. But I do want to thank everyone for hanging out. It's fun to chat. But let's wrap things up. And so, thanks everyone. We'll move slides here to our stream ending. But I do want to thank Mike. Thank you for doing the commentary, especially on the Hermit FEB deck. It's a lot more comforting when I know I have an expert in the booth on this deck, because this one certainly is intimidating. So yeah, it's good to have you.
Thank you for having me on, because I definitely wanted to do this.
Yeah. And then thank you everyone who was able to tune in live, and thanks for chatting. Always appreciate kind of the camaraderie that we have during a match. It makes it a lot more fun. And then thanks for the support that we have, and the follows or the subscriptions, and then thank you for people who watch us on YouTube and stuff. So thanks for enjoying the content that we put out. It always makes it a lot more fun. But we will let you know when we have other matches for the Fall Brawl scheduled, and I'll keep you in tune through Facebook or Twitter. But until next time, take care.
Bye, guys.